welcome everyone to the Bytespeed and Ruckus webinar here. A couple of different topics we'll talk about today. The Ruckus hardware roadmap will be coming up. There's some new things coming out in the first half of 2025. We'll be talking about those. And then the big thing most of you are probably here for are the Ruckus One Cloudpath features. A lot of new features coming into Cloudpath, or coming into Ruckus One, excuse me, from Cloudpath. So that'll be a good thing to jump into. So we'll just go ahead and get started here. If my slides will advance, there they are. All right. My name is Bill Hartog. I'm the Ruckus Bytespeed specialist here. I've been working with Bytespeed for probably about 10 years or so. So I have a good relationship with Ruckus, been working with them a long time. And then Adam Keys, he'll take over for the second half and be talking about Ruckus One and Cloudpath integration and all that type of stuff. And he's a Ruckus SE, so he is knowledgeable about that stuff and can go into depth there for us. Just a little bit here about Bytespeed. Started in 1999, started doing desktops, laptops, servers, that type of thing. The past 15 years or so, we've been partnering with other companies to complete our portfolio. Ruckus has been a big part of that. Been partnering with them for almost all of that 15 years. So we know them well. Jatan is on the call. He's been one of our biggest supporters there at Ruckus, so great to have him here on the call. Again, we try to be a full solution, and that is why we started partnering with people. Like I say, we started in the desktops, laptops, workstations, servers, all that type of stuff, and then we bring in partners to help with those other needs, right? Virtual reality, MDM solutions, networking, physical surveillance, all those type of things, even interactive flat panels, furniture, those type of things. So if you guys need anything, we're here to be a resource. Even if we don't have what you need, hopefully we can point you in the right direction. The other big thing that we offer recently that we branched out to is installation and configuration. We brought in teams that have specialized in installation with other companies and have brought them into our team, and they've been helping us with nationwide installation services and also configuration. We now have dedicated teams to do, if you buy switches from us, you buy APs from us, we can bring those in here, configure them, and then when either we have a team out there installing or you guys install it, it's at least ready to go. For the most part, of course, there's always troubleshooting that you have to do after the fact, but for the most part, it's ready to install and go for you right off the get. And then just a quick thing about our tech support. We are a 8 to 5 shop, Monday through Friday. We are based in Moorhead, Minnesota, and we don't have any call trees or anything like that. You call us, you get a receptionist, and she gets you to who you need to go to right away. So you don't have to worry about, waiting on hold or anything like that. You're right into where you need to go. And that's one of the great things. And we're all based in Minnesota, so you get that US-based support. All right, getting into the meat of the matter here. Ruckus, again, one of our big partners. They have two different controllers. Ruckus One is one we'll be focusing on today. The other one is Smart Zone. Basically, that's going to be your cloud-based, which Ruckus One is cloud-based. Smart Zone is your on-prem based. That comes in two flavors, either virtual or physical appliance, whichever one you'd rather do. They offer APs and switching, of course. They are starting to flirt with firewalls in some limited situations, but their bread and butter are going to be the APs and the switching. And then just to keep moving along here, the Wi-Fi 6 APs, these have been around for a while, not a whole lot new, nothing to introduce here. But basically just to show everyone kind of how the lineup goes, you get your good, better, best. And then you got the R, the T, and the H, right? When you're looking at the model numbers there. So your R is your indoor, your T is your outdoor, and your H is what they call their hospitality. It's more like wall plate. People can plug in physically to it with a mini switch. So they want a dedicated, plug in, they can do do that too. So you go from basically when you're looking at the good, better, best as well, you're looking at density, right? When you're looking at APs, especially within the same manufacturer, normally distance, unless you're doing some different type of antenna pattern or something like that, distance is going to be about the same. You're really concentrating on density with these things. So you look at the R350, that's kind of I would say, small business, small classroom type of AP. You get 30, 50 devices on there. it's going to be good for that, right? And then you move up to better. Okay, now you got your the 500 series, you got the 600 series, starting to bring those densities up, larger classrooms. Once you get into the 600 series, maybe some community group areas and that type of stuff. And then you move up to the best, and that's your 750. And then even the 850. The 850 is the really big boy. That's more for like your stadiums and that type of stuff. Really high densities is what you're looking at there. And that's all Wi-Fi 6. We'll get into the Wi-Fi 7 and 6E stuff in the next slide. But then, of course, you get your outdoor, the T series, your T350. That's basically your coverage AP, right? You just want to get outdoor coverage for people, not a whole lot of density. And then the 750, a lot of people use that for maybe outdoor football stadiums or something like that, right? They need to get coverage to the fan, not only to the press box maybe, but to the fans and that type of stuff. That's where you're going to use those T750s to get that density. And then the H350 and the H550, those are, like I say, the wall plates, more meant for maybe apartment buildings or hotel rooms or something like that. But we do have schools that use them as well. So they are multiple use there. All right, here's the big thing. We got some new exciting things happening here. Wi-Fi 6E and Wi-Fi 7 access points. They follow the same naming scheme. You can just see instead of the 50 series, now we're in the 60 and 70 series. So for Wi-Fi 6E, it's the R560 and the R760. You can see that under tri-band, the far left side and the far right side there on the top. So those are the Wi-Fi 6E. There aren't going to be any new Wi-Fi 6E and access points. Those are kind of what they brought out for Wi-Fi 6E. Of course, we've moved on to Wi-Fi 7, but we have basically the medium density R560 and the high density R760. They've had a lot of good promotions around those to try to get people into that Wi-Fi 6E, into that 6 gigahertz area. So those are basically, if you're looking at flirting with or just getting into 6 gigahertz, those are a more cost-effective way to do it, at least at this time. That might change, but those are pretty good. And then you get to the 70 series. That's the Wi-Fi 7 stuff. That's where, of course, all the new APs and all the new action is. The R770 has been out for a while now. I think that came out about a year ago, actually Q4 of 2023. So that one's been out, lots of stock on that. That one's stable. That's the kind of, and that's how Ruckus does it is they'll bring out the high-end ones and then start backfilling, and that's what they've been doing. So R770 is out, R7 or 670 is out as well. That one came out in Q3 of 2024, so fairly new, but good stock that is out, ready to buy. Go ahead and buy that if you guys are looking for it. It is there. Prices are not bad at all. And then looking at indoor stuff in that R series, the new one coming out is going to be the R370 there on the left-hand side of the screen. That one will come out in Q2 2025, so next quarter. That one should be out. There is one thing to note about lower-end Wi-Fi 7 devices, and that is many of them won't have 6 gigahertz radios. They follow the Wi-Fi 7 standard, but they don't offer the 6 gigahertz radio, and that's because of cost, right? Adding in that third radio to support 6 gigahertz adds in a decent amount of cost. So to stay cost effective, a lot of manufacturers are going to have lower end units that won't have the 6 gigahertz. That is the case with the 370. So just be aware of that. It does not have the 6 gigahertz radio. There will be a 500 series, a 570 coming out at some point too. I believe that one will have the 6 gigahertz radio, but they're still nailing down all those details and stuff like that. So nothing new to announce there right now. Going down from that, we can see the outdoor APs. They've had the T670 out since Q3 of 2024. That one's out. You can buy it in stock, ready to go. The new one coming out next quarter as well is the T670SN. That one is a sectorized version. So the normal T670 is a omnidirectional 360-degree unit outdoor. The T670SN is a sectored antenna. It's 120 degrees, so basically one direction. The one cool thing about it that I like is in the past, Ruckus has had bridge pairs that they've sold that have had narrower antennas, so you can go longer with them. They have that basically that narrower beam they shoot out. This one, this T670SN, has a software selectable antenna pattern in it. So 120 degrees, I think, is the default, is the standard. That's one most people will use to get that coverage outdoors and all that type of stuff. You're mounting it on a building facing one direction. You will basically want to shoot everything in that direction. Great, that's what that's for. But they also have a software selectable 30-degree antenna array in there, so you can really narrow that down and go farther distance. And if you need to shoot a little bit farther for maybe, a point-to-point or a point-to-multi-point bridge or something like that, get that mesh going, the T670SN will be able to do that for you. So that's a good addition. They haven't had that narrow beam in a while, so that was good to see. And then the H670 is coming out as well. That'll be later in the year, probably Q4. And that's, again, more aimed at hospitality, multi-dwelling, that type of stuff. But I know Jatan has some big customers of schools that do use those. So if you guys are interested in those, just know those are coming as well. And that'll be good. And then just, a quick chat about why 6 gigahertz is a big deal. In the beginning, especially when Wi-Fi 6E was just coming out, there were no client devices that use 6 gigahertz, right? So now that 6E has been out for a while, 7's now starting to mature as well. A lot of client devices are starting to use chips that offer 6 gigahertz connectivity. So, before you were kind of future proofing, right? I know I don't have clients that are going to use it right away, but I'm going to buy this. I'm going to get it up just to future proof. So when they do, I'll be ready. Now we're kind of getting into the mainstream of Wi-Fi 7. Lots of clients' devices are starting to get on that 6 gigahertz. They're starting to adopt Wi-Fi 7 as the standard, those type of things. So, now is a great time to get into Wi-Fi 7 because you're getting in kind of early, but you're getting in early. So like, let's say you want to make the jump, in 2 years. Well, now Wi-Fi 8's about to come out, right? So you're getting into that 6 gigahertz, you're getting into it early. Well, your investment will still pay off, and it doesn't seem like, when you get into it, all of a sudden there's something new out right away again. And of course, with a new standard, you get more capacity, you get that new 6 gigahertz spectrum. And the big thing about that 6 gigahertz spectrum is there's no legacy interference, especially, you guys know 2.4 gigahertz is noisy. There's only 13 channels, and there's everything in your mama is living on that spectrum there. 5 gigahertz is a lot better. But a lot more channels to go through, but there's still a lot of devices on it. Whereas 6 is a clean spectrum, not a whole lot of interference or anything there, so a lot easier to do radio management and everything on those 6 gigahertz. That is it for kind of the APs. We'll jump into kind of the switching side now. The big one that I wanted to mention is the ICX 7150 has gone end of sale. This has been around since Brocade kind of merged into Ruckus. So originally it was a Brocade 7150. It turned into the Ruckus 7150. Been around since Ruckus acquired, or Brocade transitioned to Ruckus. Been around that long. Now it is going end of sale. A lot of people have these in their stacks. A lot of people have these in their networks. They have gone end of life as of March 10th. There is one model that is not end of sale yet, and that is the multi-gig, the ZP version of the 7150, but it will be going end of sale soon. So they are not totally end of life. They are still supported until September 10th of 2030, but just know they are end of sale. So you can still get renewals, and they'll still be supported and still be getting security updates and all that type of stuff until September 10th, 2030. So that's a big thing right now. The ICX 8200 that came out about a year and a half, 2 years ago, that is the current replacement. They are pretty comparable. The 8200 is a little bit more higher end than the 7150s were. And as you'll see in the next slide, there's actually a new model range coming out called the 8100s. The initial ones really aren't an exact replacement for the 7150s, but I think down the road there'll be some models that will be a direct replacement for the 7150. So stay tuned for that. Right now, 8200s are a good fit to replace these for access level switching. And as I was talking about, here is the ICX 8100. Got 5 different models here, 24 and 48 port non-PoE, 24 port and 84 port PoE, and then a compact PoE switch. The big thing about these are initial launches are going to be very entry level. They are budget friendly and that type of thing. So if you can see it, even looking at the first 24 port one there, it is 1 gig, 24 port, and only 1 gig SFPs. You cannot upgrade that to 10 gig. They are just hard locked at 1 gig. You can't do stacking. You can't do layer 3 routing, that type of stuff. So these are very entry level switches. You can control them, via the web GUI and Ruckus One, Unleashed, all that type of stuff. They are, able to be put in management, but they are very entry level units. So something to know about. And I believe those are launching very, very soon. If they haven't already, Q1 25 is what I'm seeing there. So anytime those should be out. All right. That is it for kind of the hardware section that we were going through here. Adam will be coming up with talking about Ruckus One and all that type of stuff. Does anyone have any questions here? I will bring up the questions and see if anyone has any questions. If you have questions, toss them in the chat there. I'll give you guys just a minute. If nothing pops up, we'll jump over to Adam and let him do his spiel here on Ruckus One and Cloudpath. I know most of you are probably here for that one. All right. Well, I don't see anything coming in here, Adam. Are you ready to jump over to your section?
Yep, sure am, Bill.
Oh,
Appreciate it.
hold on. We got a raised hand here.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, I can see in the Q&A there, Chris or Curtis. If you just want to type in there, I can get you. Okay, so the question is, other side for higher end units for main router for a campus, what Ruckus product would you still recommend? So if you're looking at like an actual router to do, layer 3 routing and that type of stuff, like I said, for firewalls and stuff, Ruckus really doesn't have a solution aimed at schools. They do have something more for hospitality. But if you're looking for something that's just doing routing and that type of stuff, there are two models that you can look at. There's the ICX 7550, which I would say kind of is the entry level to being a level layer 3 router. And then they have the ICX 7850 models. And those are going to be the higher end type of thing. So it depends on how big the campus is and all that type of stuff. But the ICX 7550 or the ICX 8550 are going to be the models to look at if you're looking at top of rack router type solutions. Does that answer your question?
Just real quick, Bill. Did you mean the 7850?
Is that the Yeah, 7550 and 7850s are what I meant there. Yes. If I spoke out of turn there. Sorry, guys. Yeah, the 7550 will be the starter, kind of the entry level layer 3 router, top of rack type stuff. And then the ICX 7850 will be the higher end one. All right. I think that is it. Thank you for your question there, Curtis. I'll drop it off to you, Adam.
Thanks, Bill. All right, let me go and get the presentation up here. If anyone does have any questions, feel free to put them in chat. We'll round back to them at the end. All right, Bill, can you see the screen okay?
Yep, you're looking good.
Awesome. All right, so we'll go ahead and jump in here. As Bill discussed, my name is Adam Keys. I'm the channel SE for the Central West region, and we're going to cover the Cloudpath integration into R1. This has been an ongoing thing that we've been doing. It's bringing more value to the Ruckus One platform, which, as we discussed earlier, is the cloud controller for Ruckus. And we've been integrating different platforms into it. Our analytics is already integrated into it, which previously was a standalone feature. And then now we have Ruckus One being integrated as well, or sorry, Cloudpath being integrated into Ruckus One as well. So diving into it here, first thing we're going to cover is a new feature set that is centered around the administration roles. So we all know the administration roles in Ruckus One. We won't dive too much into it. These are the normal ones you can set up. Your prime admin, has access to everything. Admin, it's a little lower tier, but just can't do what the prime admin can do. And then you have a guest manager, DPSK manager. What's new is that you can create these custom roles now, which give you increased security access. And the reason that ties into Cloudpath is because it is security based. But it also allows you to set up a permissions format for this new role that you're creating. So you can create a admin role that is just able to do certain functionality on Wi-Fi, certain functionality on wired, and then certain functionality on our Smart Edge platform as well. And that really will allow you to determine what users that are accessing your platform are able to do what. All right. Okay. So next topic is property management. So this is a Cloudpath feature, more of kind of an upgrade onto what was in Cloudpath already. So really the goal behind this is to simplify network control and to automate a lot of the onboarding process that was already provided in Cloudpath. This kind of just makes it easier. It allows it so when you're creating these networks, like a DPSK network, for example, with property management, you can onboard a user just by having them log in, and it will, assign them a DPSK key and then to a unit. It's not just applicable to hospitality. That is definitely what it's geared towards, but there's a lot of avenues you can use this in. You can segment networks out via this way because the units can have different VLANs. So it's a very easy way to segment the network in that manner. And for example, like a unit doesn't necessarily need to be a classroom. It could, or a hotel room or something along those lines. It could be a classroom. So if you're looking at a K through 12 kind of situation, can very well be used for that as well. And yeah, this is the residential portal experience where you can customize the display and the settings and everything there. Okay. So unit allocation mapping, again, this is done via DPSK allocation, which is all internal. When the property unit is created, it automatically onboards and creates these subsections here. I apologize if we're going a little fast. Again, if you have any questions, put them in chat, but we do have a lot of content to cover here. So here you can see the DPSK network, and that is spread across the property. So that is where you can the keys will be assigned from. So this is a high-level overview of kind of how overall picture of how everything looks together. We have units which are created dynamically. Once we define a unit, the identity is created and the DPSK is associated with a passphrase that allows those those residents or the classroom or what have you to be onboarded to the network. You can set that up to be performed via email or QR code, depending on preference. Okay, captive portal and LDAP support. So here we can see the policies of profile section. So this is basically, and I'll cover this when we get to the demo section. The policies and profile section is where really all of the Cloudpath material is going to be. It's on the left-hand side, and I'll show you, like I said, when we get to the demo section, exactly where it is. But that's where the AD and LDAP support is. Active Directory and LDAP, you know, you can onboard those into R1 as an authentication method, and it is via this method here. You know, right here you can see where it's located, and then where you input your Active Directory server information, and then you know where you can select your ADs once they are onboarded. You can of course have multiple ones in there if that is the situation you find yourself in. Yep, and we can see the activation of said network. After you add in your Active Directory servers, you can go to creating a new network, and you will actually select AD or Active Directory and LD server, and then you'll be able to select from the drop down when you create that network. Okay, certificate authority and certificate templates. So this, you know, is very much a Cloudpath feature. It's very much kind of the core of Cloudpath, the certificate management. Here is the area that you are creating certificates. So you're creating your certificate authority, and then your certificate template, and then you can issue out your certificates and generate certificates. Now that can be done a few different ways. You know, you can do it internally, or if you have an external certificate that you want to use, you can do that as well. Once these certs are generated, you can utilize them, or you can use them actually in tandem with MDM solutions as well. That has been tested and verified working. All right. So Ruckus Assist Simplified Onboarding Wizard. This is pretty neat. So it's a Gen AI personal assistant. Really, it's an onboarding wizard that will walk someone, you know, who is maybe new to Ruckus One through the initial configuration of a network. It will help them make the first venue, create a network, and assign VLANs. It allows for free-form text input that will allow Gen AI to determine the type of network that is needed. And then there's some additional steps for switch configs. Yep. And again, this is great for an end user that is not familiar with Ruckus One or networking, or just, you know, in general, once a basic config set up for their network that they can later go in and customize if they so wish. Yep. So onboarding workflows. Okay, so this is really kind of the meat and potatoes, so to speak, of Cloudpath. Is where you're creating your workflow process. Those who have used Cloudpath as a platform, standalone platform, will be familiar with this process. This is where you can tree out and segment networks, having, you know, maybe some users authenticate one way, some users authenticate another way, and it's really a very, very interesting method of onboarding. So some of the methodology for onboarding has been brought in to Ruckus One from Cloudpath. Some is roadmapped to be finalized in. So here on the slide here, we can see the parts of the workflow deliverables that are that have been added in. We actually have an additional one in here as well, which is certificate management as a authentication method. But yeah, currently we have you know, the DPSK, provide DPSK, MAC address, registration, and as I said, certificate authentication as well. And then we have the ability to show an acceptable use policy, custom message. Now, granted, all of these can be configured in Ruckus One manually. Kind of the point of the onboarding workflow is to make it as simplified as possible. Almost a drag and drop, so to speak, for configuring these subsystems that are usually more complicated to do in a standalone format. So here we can see the future of what it's going to look like. We can see the roadmap up here on the top right. But as you can see here, there's some additional features such as user-driven splits, where we can separate these out into students and faculty, guests, contractors. Really, there's no limit into the kind of segmentation you can really do. But yeah, very useful. And then we can see a logical split here as well with different authentication servers brought into the mix. So for Q4, so that was the previous update, or one of the previous updates. We saw the simplified acceptable use policy, GPSK, certificate, and MacAuth. Q1, we're going to see single step, nested workflow templates. The workflow templates will be the one that's very useful. In Q2 2025, we're going to see captive portals, user split, and SAML brought into the workflow process. And then Q3 2025 is going to be functional split, LDAP, AD, and OAuth. And then Q4 2025 is going to be host, PSK, paywall, and property management, which is very interesting. Now, granted, that is a little ways out, and there's still some details to be worked out about that. But the paywall is going to be one that's very interesting because it will allow you to kind of monetize the Wi-Fi in a way that you can set tiered pricing around it. So if you're in a situation such as a hotel or a conference or really any kind of public venue, you can set the payment tiers, whether it's 10 megs, one type, and then over to 50, and then maybe to 100, and down from there. So very exciting and very interesting. All right, moving on here. Oh yeah, and this shows a functional workflow currently. Okay. So enhance security and user experience through centralized identity management. So this is important. This is how identities are managed within our R1. So identity management is a centralized vehicle for R1 to provide identity to groups, users, and devices. So the idea here and how it's managed is that every device is tied to a user, which is then tied to actually, let me rephrase that. Every device is tied to an identity, and every identity is tied to an identity group. And that's just kind of how it flows. And that way you can manage these identities by the groups. And then, a group can have a GPSK pool, which then flows down to the identities and then down to the devices tied to those identities. So it's a way to organize these identities, which of course are used via the onboarding methodology to safely onboard all these users and all these devices onto your network and keep track of everything, most importantly. Okay, unified Wi-Fi management and RF analysis solution. So this is it's not necessarily tied to Cloudpath, but it's very neat. So this is a Ruckus One, Humina, and an Ekahau integration, which will allow you to pull your heat maps from Humina and Ekahau, or Hamna, depending on how you pronounce it. The functionality is going to be very, very integrated. So it's going to be built into the tools. For those of you who have done heat maps in the past and are familiar with them, this is going to be very nice because, or even if you're not doing the heat map, if you are doing a replacement or bringing in new material to your location, and the partner or even the manufacturer does a map for you, you can have that loaded into your R1 instance to continually benefit from that map. That way you can use it to troubleshoot throughout your time. All right. So that is it for the slideshow deck. So let's hop into Ruckus One.
There
Sorry, go
was
ahead.
one question for you,
Yep.
Adam. It was what license is needed to use the AD LDAP integration portion?
AD LDAP. So that should be essentials. Now, granted, the AD LDAP support should be just Ruckus One Essentials, unless you're talking about integrating it with the workflow process, because the workflow process is going to be professional only, and it is currently, as it stands, professional only. But like I said, a lot of these other functionalities are available in Essentials as well. It's just you don't have the ease of access of using it in the workflow process.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, let me share my other screen here. All right, so we just have a demo instance here.
There was
So
one other one, sorry, Adam, that
yeah,
just came in. It was basically, and I think you kind of touched on a little bit, but are all these new features coming directly to Ruckus One existing licenses, Essentials,
yes.
or just to the Cloudpath add-on? So, like
Oh,
Adam
okay.
said, go ahead, Adam, but there's no Cloudpath add-on. It's either Essentials or Professional. Go ahead.
That's correct. That is correct. So basically the idea behind it is that every R1 license is tied to 10 Cloudpath usage keys, or that's not the right word for it, but so you have 10 device capabilities with each Ruckus One licenses. So pretty much you'll get a large amount of Cloudpath functionality just with purchasing your Ruckus licenses. If you have a very large venue with a lot of users logging in, you may need additional Cloudpath uh, licenses to accommodate those extra users. So that's going to be a case by case basis on whether that's needed. But yeah, if that is pretty much, if you're looking at utilizing Cloudpath, the methodology would just be to evaluate how many licenses you're going to need, and if it's more than roughly 10 times 10 times the number of R1 licenses you have, then we'll be looking at getting getting some additional Cloudpath licenses for that instance.
Perfect. And yet, like you said, I think most features that we're showing off here are
Yeah,
usable on Essentials. It's just like the workflows that currently we know are going to be on Professional, correct?
correct. Correct. Yeah. And granted, there are some features that are still roadmapped, so I can't say 100% that all of those will be essentials. But as it stands currently, yes, all those features will be essentials except for the workflow. Workflow is the only thing defined currently as being professional only.
All right. Another question just came in. The AD LDAP integration and authentication mentioned, can they be configured looking at groups to approve, or is it all or nothing are allowed?
Hmm.
And if I said it wrong, you can kind of look at, I'm guessing you can look at question and answers too, correct?
Yeah. Let me take a look here. I can't seem to pull it up when I'm sharing my screen. Let's see. Is it all or nothing? That's a good question. Let me get back to our team with that, and we'll follow up with you directly on that question.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
So Bill, if you could write or copy down
Yep, I'll get you.
questionnaire, appreciate it. Awesome. All right. So continuing on here. So this is the dashboard for Ruckus One. Let me just reload it right here. There we go. And like I said, this is a demo instance. So really, we just want to kind of look at some of the functionality here behind Cloudpath. One thing I'll just point out real quick around, oh, I apologize. I thought it was probably expired, which is why I went to reload it. Okay, so one of the functionalities that I want to point out here, just real quick before we jump into the R1 how much time? Yeah, we got time. Is the custom profiles. So if you're going to add those, real easy, just go in here into custom profile, and this is where you can customize what you want this new admin profile to be able to access and finalize that out. And then, like I said, you can, you can get real granular, or you can get real in depth with this. So it is a useful feature, and one that I've seen a lot of pickup and usage. All right, so on to the service catalog, sorry, not service catalog, policies and profiles. So this is where all of the Cloudpath data is going to be located, is down here. So here we can see we have various things, really anything security related is going to be located down in the policies and profiles section, but we'll take a look at the workflow here since this is really the nitty gritty of it. So let's take a look at Luis's workflow. It doesn't look like we really have anything in there. So this is where you would start integrating here. So, you can add a acceptable use policy, right? Sounds good. Say test. All right. Let's give it a second to update. So we have an acceptable use policy, and this is where you can start kind of training out on what you want to do. This is where you'd edit it. And this is where you'd start, adding in your, maybe you want to install a certificate, maybe you want to provide a DPSK. And this is how, again, this workflow is going to be expanded upon significantly to allow for all these things that, we want to be able to do in here. And that is roadmapped, but it is right around the corner. So that's the workflow as it stands. And yeah, so the LDAP support is going to be down here as well. So this is actually where you, okay, so I'll cover that in a second, but the LDAP should be in here. Directory server. Yes. Okay. So here's the Active Directory and LDAP area where you can enter in the server information. And then down here again, so radius server. So this section is where you can add in a external radius server. One thing I didn't cover in the presentation is that Ruckus One, like Cloudpath, does have a built-in radius server that you can access. And that's currently, it's solely for the implementation of certificates, which, we can look at right here. So this again is where you can create your certificate. You start by adding in a certificate authority here, where you root in like all this information. This is also where, like, if you're integrating an MDM solution such as Mosul or Jamf, you'd have to go in here as well. So you can pull that certificate over. But yes, this is where you would instantly create the certificate and everything that you would later use to turn on the onboard radius server. And the way that you turn on the onboard radius server is actually creating a new network. So basically what you do is go down to captive portal, or sorry, not captive portal, enterprise AAA. Sorry. Of course it does. Okay. And then yes, so instead of selecting a external radius server, we'd use a certificate auth, and here you would select your localized certificate, which would crank on the onboard radius server because that's what it would use to issue out the certificates. And that's as it stands currently. That's going to be expanded upon as we continue throughout the roadmap. And I'm assuming the activation for the radius server, the onboard one, will be located in here eventually when it's used for more features than just certificate management. So yeah, let's see what else that we covered. I mean, this is where you're making your MAC registration, adaptive policy set. Yeah, again, really anything that is network based is going to be located in here. Real quick, I just kind of want to cover this briefly because this is a really cool subsection of Ruckus One. And this is the analytics. Those familiar with Ruckus Analytics probably know, these kind of features well. But this really provides so much for your organization. This is the manual way of looking at, like incidents and things like that in your instance and field connections. But like right here, for example, we're looking at the overall network, connection failures. We can see what type of failures are happening, what percentage of those failures, are happening in that area, whether it's a radius failure, DHCP failure. We can click on a DHCP failure. We can select a device, and then we can go into that device and actually look at where these failures are happening. And then if we select one, see if we can get one pulled here. Yeah, there's one. So if we select one, we can see where that actual failure is happening along the association path, right? Or disassociation path in this case. So very useful tool here. And then also we can take a look here at Intent AI. This is the AI portion of the controller. Of course, there's a lot of AI functionality built into here. We have Equiflex, AI operations, and then AI-driven RRM. For those not familiar with RRM, that is radio resource management. Basically, what it is when you look at it holistically is it's a subsystem built into the controller that takes a look at your channel mapping, your AP power, your channel width. It's looking for any kind of interferers or anything that's not optimized in the network that's going on, and it can make those changes. Of course, the changes have to be approved before it'll start doing anything. It won't just do it without approval. But once you approve it and like say it's okay for it to begin making changes, it'll start looking at the network continuously, and make updates on non-impact times to keep your network as healthy and as interference free as possible. So very useful features there. And then AI operations does a multitude of things. But one thing is expanded radar channels versus limited channel options. So basically it's verifying, like which option of these is better. And it's running diagnostics to determine what is the most optimized net or environment for your network, so to speak. So very, very cool functionality in there. But yeah, that so there's I could spend hours talking about this, but that's pretty much what we wanted to cover here. So we'll take a look back. Bill, are there any more questions in here?
No new questions yet, but if anyone has any questions on what was shown or anything, pop them in the Q&A section and we'll take a look here.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But the main thing to mention here, and I'll just stop sharing here real quick. The main thing to mention here is that Ruckus One is going to continually be upgraded because our goal is to make it the most valuable cloud controller on the market. And I mean, a lot of what it already does already speaks to that methodology. Like Ruckus Analytics and Ruckus Cloudpath have always been these standalone platforms. Now with this integration, they're being combined into one, and that's really just brings so much value to Ruckus One as a controller because you're getting that with your subscription.
One thing too, I guess we can touch on, and we have a little bit of time, is I
Yeah.
know kind of in one of the sections there where you're configuring stuff in the cloud, Ruckus Edge popped up as an option. I just wanted to, make everyone aware that Ruckus Edge is a fairly new or a fairly new product from Ruckus 2. That is, and Adam might know more about it, but basically my understanding is if you guys need to do any type of tunneling or anything like that, but you want to use Ruckus One, Ruckus Edge will act as basically a local tunneling appliance that'll allow you to use your tunneling and do all those things that you need to locally, but still be able to utilize Ruckus One as your cloud controller. Is that correct, Adam?
That's exactly right, Bill. Yeah. It has a lot of play in different markets. Obviously higher education, has certain requirements built in around these kind of functionalities. But it's very useful. And really any scenario that you need to tunnel traffic securely from one location to another. And that's really what the value add is. Now it's a VM, so it's a virtual machine. You can install it on like your choice of options. There is a hardware version as well that we will ship. But yeah, it's very easy to manage and very easy this is where you integrate it right here. Unfortunately, I don't have a live instance to demo, but yes, the integration is very, very simplified, and it allows you to, as Bill said, it allows you to tunnel traffic securely from one location to another. So a use case of that is, we're seeing in K through 12 is not just higher education, though higher education does have requirements built around it. Is K through 12, where maybe, there's a instance where a teacher, has an access point, that they wish to take home. Because we want to provide a secure landscape at the home office, and especially with, today's, current work from home environments and everything, you never really know. So that way they can have a localized network that is tunneling securely back to the school, and there's no risk involved there, which is key. Yeah.
Excellent. Oh, we do have one more question here. Do you know if there's an essentials professional comparison matrix? I do. Do you know if there's one updated to talk about Cloudpath features, Adam?
I can absolutely check. Not that I am aware of right now. Again, the functionalities that are coming out are bleeding edge right now, so they're coming quick and they're coming fast. So there's not always updated comparison slides on that, but I will absolutely check.
Okay, and then one other question. What access protections are on the cloud offering? Does it offer MFA? What type of security on site and on the communications between the switches and the cloud?
Right. So take a look back at that. See that question. Yes, MFA. Absolutely. What kind of security on site and on the communications between the switches and the site? So, for that one, could you clarify? Are you referring to like port security? I'm trying to figure out exactly what you mean by between switches and the site. But yes, multi-factor authentication, absolutely. Just trying to clarify on the switches and the site part.
I had to scroll down. It is there. How do the switches communicate to the cloud? I'm guessing if that, how do they secure that communication between the APs and switches to the cloud?
Um, hmm. Yeah, that's one I'll have to check on.
I know there is a coarse encryption involved. I know some of
Yeah,
the older switch models that came over from Brocade were not able to go into the cloud specifically because they didn't have the chips required to do the required encryption. But yeah, if, we might need to do a little more look on that to see how exactly it's done. But it is a secure communication process, and because literally they had some switches that they couldn't put in the cloud because of that limitation.
yeah, yeah, exactly right. It is secure. I'm not sure on the exact encryption methodology that they use for that. I will need to check on that. Great question though. Great question.
And it looks like that whoever did that question was anonymous. If you want to follow up with, if you want to send me an email, you probably got an email from me about this, or Elizabeth or whoever, or just let us know who you are. We can send you a follow up on that.
Yep. And then also at the beginning of the webinar, it does show, Bill's contact information along with my contact information. Please feel free to reach out with any questions.
Absolutely. All right. If there aren't any more questions, I think we can call her there. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It was great to talk to you again. Like Adam said, reach out to us if you guys have any more additional questions or want any more information. We'll track down with Curtis there and follow up on his questions and all that type of stuff and anything else you guys have.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one.